Hello, my name is Snakeman and welcome to the channel. And today we're talking about Dark Souls 2, the game that I have recently completed. Dark Souls 2 is the second game in the series, of course, the middle child, the filler episode. No one likes the game, but those who do are freaks. Freaks like myself, actually, and I've been having this opinion for years. I have completed the game for the first time 10 years ago, and since then I came back to it a couple of times, but never to the end of the game, never to the completion. And I always got distracted by other things in life or something. So I dropped many runs at the midway, even though I have managed to go pretty deep sometimes. And I completed Dark Souls 3 for the first time relatively recently, though. So I have enjoyed it immensely, but for the many years, I have this narrow perspective of only Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. Now I have this fresh perspective, so it got me thinking, From my point of view, Dark Souls 3 is the better game. Alright? It is the better game. You can, quote me on that. But I still have a very fond memories of Dark Souls 2, and that makes me thinking further. If was it nostalgia, these cool thoughts about the game, cool memories, or the game was good in the end, and I decided to come back to it, and I did. And the good thing is, I experienced the feeling that many people really desire to experience. And it is difficult to do them so because, if you like something, your attention, inevitably goes in that direction sometimes. But for me, it worked because I didn't touch it for years. What I mean is, I forgot the game in many ways and fell in love with it all over again. I forgot the routes, I forgot the bosses, I forgot the mechanics, some story elements, I forgot a lot of things. And because I ended up exploring them anew, and in many ways it was really anew because when sometimes when your thought process goes narrow and you get to the very complicated conclusions. There's like deja vu, is what you experienced like 10 years ago. You came to this very same conclusion and you work backwards and you understand that you came to it through completely different thought process, and if both of them collide, that means they're true. And it's very cool. It was like I was playing with the ghost of my former self, if you want to put it that way. But still, I can safely say that the game is good. Quote me on that again. After all these years, for me, the idea that Dark Souls 2's main problem, but not the only problem, of course, but the main one, the very main one, was the title. They should have called it a spin off or make it its own series entirely, and people would have liked it much more. They would have tolerated its bullshit much more. But since it is called Dark Souls 2, it had to be in the same role as the masterpieces of Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3. And it's tough for this frail little thing to stand shoulder to shoulder with them, even though it has its own distinct strength, I think. But let's get to the meat of it. So, in this video, I want to talk about the good things in this game and the bad things in this game. Because people tend to believe that this game has a very low lows and very mediocre everything else. but I believe there are some high highs as well. And there are some underappreciated highs too, that could be a big thing for some people, for people with the taste in games such as mine. And maybe through the lens of your taste, you can find your own appreciation for the game, or an appetite to try it yourself if you never did. Who knows? Who knows? But still, let's talk about the good things about the game. So, one of this is a complicated thing, but it has its own layers, and I will talk about all of them as as I mentioned them. Aesthetics. This game's aesthetics. They are. I think they're strong, and I think they are cool. The main problem is they are very different compared to Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3. The atmosphere of the melancholy in this game very much exists, but not in the way that the people are used to it, Sometimes in Dark Souls 1 and 3, the atmosphere of dark fantasy is so gloomy, oppressive, and gives the impression of hopelessness that you can get immersed very deep in that atmosphere. And, we all like Dark Souls this way, but here in this game, it is different. It is less of a dark fantasy and much more of a generic fantasy with heavy themes thrown into it. When Dark Souls 1 felt to me like a very lonely adventure, here I was really alone. Rarely alone, I mean. Majula was always full of characters. There were other travelers between the locations, important NPCs and all. But the conversations, they are always dialogues. They are between the protagonist and one other person. So if other characters interact, it usually happens off screen. Well, not only usually, always. It always happens off screen. But the presence of these things happening is felt very much by the characters themselves and by the environment. I really enjoy that. It feels very satisfying. So the personal feeling is still there, like in the other games. It is a very intimate adventure, but the world still lives, even though it is the same as usual. It lives in somewhat apocalyptic way. Well, it is Dark Souls, of course. It is Dark Souls. But that brings us to characters. Another strong point in the game, and I enjoy many of the NPCs in Dark Souls 2, but some of them were especially cool. Like, at around mid-game, you would wander through a misty forest with invisible assassins trying to backstab you, and you somehow stumble upon a corner where, in a pile of rubble, there is a head and a helmet. It just lies there. And his name is Vengarl, and he's actually alive. And he used to be, back in the day, an exceptional warrior. Like a legend. But he lost his body. I want to say he lost his head, but still, because the head is still conscious. You know, he lost his body. And Vengarl, he lived only through the life of war. He was a true man of war. He knew only fighting and nothing else. And now he loses every ability to do so, to wage war, to live a lifestyle that he did. He is completely incapable of it. But he actually doesn't give up and go hollow. Why is that? Why doesn't he just, he just die? Because he shifts his attention to the starry sky. It was the first moment in his life where he gets not just an opportunity, but he is forced to take a pause and look at the surroundings. And the starry sky gives him the sense of beauty that he never ever experienced. And the man whose purpose in life was taken, it was just stripped for him, and he should have, gave up there and there. And since he's an undead, he should have lost his mind and become mindless zombie. He never did, because at this very moment he found a higher purpose for himself, and a sense of peace that he never had. Uh, and it is beautiful. I really enjoy that you rarely meet characters like that in RPGs, in any game actually. And when he greets you, he is grumpy at first, since you interrupted his gazing. But as he talks, he starts to experiencing a true joy of a conversation, and he even thanks you for it. What a guy! I love him, and he even says that he knows. I don't know. It's maybe some kind of magic bullshit. I don't know. He knows that his body, without a head, is still out there, still waging war, still killing everything in its path. So he wants his new friend, meaning you, to be cautious. To he cares about you, man, and you're a stranger, and you know how lovely is that? I love him. I love him, and um, another good thing about it, and it is irrelevant, but still, his armor set, it's very good both in terms of stats and looks. It's my favorite armor set in the game. It is very cool, and this is a little moment in gaming that made me smile so wide, because there is some cat in the woods that thinks I'm his friend and he cares about me. It's so nice. It's so nice. So yeah, reflective experience. There are some other cool characters, of course. Most of the Majula residents, your main hub in this game, are nice, especially cool when you find a stoner daughter of a local blacksmith, and she goes to stay in Majula, and she sits right outside the local blacksmith shop, and he's very glad that he can look after his daughter now. That is kind of cute. These kind of moments were somewhat barren in Dark Souls 1 and 3, I think. And many other NPCs, many other characters. The main characters of the game, namely Aldia and Vendrick, are very cool. Nashandra, the last boss, is the failure in many regards, even though the concept behind her is good. But Aldia and Vendrick, man, presence of both is felt at first through the legations that are associated with them, but it is very much expanded when you talk with them. And you really can see what kind of guys they are, and how they ended up where they ended up, and how they influenced the world around them. It is a very massive thing, both of them, both Vendrick and Aldia. I think developers of Dark Souls 3 were very much, they have very much enjoyed Aldia. That's why they have dropped some hints about him existing, even though they routinely pretend that Dark Souls 2 never existed. So yeah, that is about characters. The other thing is the locations, and some of the locations are very beautiful, especially those from DLCs. Sometimes, even though sometimes I have to mention that it is more like when you have to travel a big distance, some kind of, big wall, big bridge, or something, and since you're doing something tedious, it feels like game gives you a flat screen TV kind of nearby you, so you can look at something beautiful and cool on your way to the next boring generic squared room, which is kind of cool sometimes, bad sometimes. But some of the locations are cool all around. Both the level design, environment, they are beautiful, and can rival Dark Souls One locations sometimes as well. But like most of the game, main locations are undercooked. That sadly is true. Majula feels like home though. For me, Majula is the best hub in every game that I have played. The gameplay. Now we're talking about the gameplay, and gameplay is a very it is the thing that defines most what is different about Dark Souls 2 compared to Dark Souls 1 and 3. There are several ideas that developers thought of to make this game distinct from its predecessor, and it shows. It definitely shows. The first off, torches. You, in this game, you can, light a torch, and you can go around and light the surroundings around you, or, to make your traveling easier. But the thing is, um, you know, the thing is, even though that it is obvious from the start, by the way, the developers wanted to do a lot with torches. With the lighting and everything, a lot of cool things were cooking with torches. But they kind of never did. Torches are very much optional. You rarely need torch. And because of that, at least I can say torches are never tedious. And that is good. If I experience some bad things in a game, I enjoy the idea of being capable of going around it to experience the game the way that I want it. But here, I enjoy torches. Sometimes they can be useful, like when you go through a very dim lit area and you light the lampposts on the way. So if you die, oh, so sad. You can follow your trail more easily since you already, lighten it up. It's cool. It's neat. There are a couple of puzzles thrown with them as well, but not many. It is a distinct mechanic, that I can say for sure. And even though it wasn't important, I personally enjoyed it. Maybe, well, who knows? Maybe we'll see something like that again in the future. Ferrous Lockstones. Well, Ferrous Lockstones are basically are keys for infinite loot boxes in a game. You collect them, and when you see the face on the wall, you can spend one of these keys to interact with it, and it can give some interesting results, such as you can open a secret passageway, or you can find a way to make the location's mechanics be easier for you. like lighting up the whole room in the dim lit area, or you can find a treasure chest, or some other hidden benefit. There are a lot of things that you can find through these Ferris Lockstones, and there are a lot of keys. Uh, it is so good that not only through the whole game you can find a Ferris doors all around the place, even though there is not much of them in the DLCs. At least one of them in each DLC. Each DLC have at least one of them. There are two big locations that are basically like loot box heavens. There are just a lot of these lockstones, and you can go wherever you like, open them wherever you like, see what they will give you. Sometimes they don't give you anything good. Sometimes they could be wasted. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It made the feeling of adventure in the action RPG more real. I wish they would have returned in Dark Souls 3, but sadly they didn't. And the next thing about the itemization, since Ferris Lockstones are items, let's look at the other items in the game. And I think itemization overall is cool. It is very cool. If you look around, you can find a lot of useful and interesting stuff. It is neat. Scarcity of the resources is rarely an issue. It can be an issue, but it rarely is. And I think even though it makes a game easier than its predecessor, I think it makes it more fun in some way. I don't know. Maybe it's my personal preference, but still, that brings us even further into the one thing that makes Dark Souls 2 a big improvement upon Dark Souls 1 at the time. And it was very strong at the time, the diversity of builds. Because you have a lot more items, you can get a lot more builds easily, right? It's very easy, but not only that. You see, in Dark Souls 1, you have a big portion of weapons and armor you would never use. They would just clutter your inventory, and that is it. And you have even bigger portion of the equipment that can be considered. You can kind of see how you can implement it in your build, but uh, this maybe category is overshadowed by the completely broken category. You know, there is a very small portion of items that are so strong and even broken, I would say, that you don't even want to use anything else. Nothing from the maybe category. Term fashion souls was invented for the people who are dedicated to their cool looking but bad gear in Dark Souls 1, and they just wanted to overcome the obstacles only by skill, not by numbers. And that is very admirable, and it is a cool phenomenon. But Dark Souls 2 didn't even have to do that, actually. Items were much better balanced and the resources were abundant. You can have a variety of top level gear in a late game, and there is a lot of viable builds. Thankfully, Dark Souls 3 learned this lesson from Dark Souls 2. But at the time, at the time, it was a very huge thing. Um, I can even see if someone says that Dark Souls 2 more diverse in terms of builds, in terms of cool things that you can do compared to Dark Souls 3. I can, I can listen to that argument. I am ready to, you know, you know what I mean. Another thing that was kind of cool is that you get invaded a lot. For those of you who don't know, in Dark Souls, multiplayer was always a very specific experience. Depending on the Covenant you choose, Covenant is basically a faction, a little faction in a game. You can either help some poor random people with their bosses, or you can invade other people's games to kill them and claim some prizes. So sometimes you can walk around exploring some very nasty area, and you see the game tells you that some prick is now running around your world looking for you to slay you. And you know that the game is getting very fun. But sadly, the servers for original Dark Souls 2, not the Scholar of the First Sin edition, are shut down. So I didn't have any multiplayer this time. But despite that, there were many, many NPC invasions, sort of like mini bosses that can jump on you when you out exploring the world. Many of them actually ended up being kind of better than actual bosses, and it is cool. I really enjoyed that. In Previously in Dark Souls 1 and 2, like a decade ago, I usually lost them actually. But right now, I was so dedicated, I was so locked in that I got almost all of them first try. It felt good. And Speaking about the bosses, there are some very cool bosses in this game. Sadly, there are a lot of bad bosses too. But the good bosses are very enjoyable. For me, the Scorpion Lady was neat. It is, of course, the rehash of the kind of the same boss from the first game, the Spider Lady. But I don't remember mechanics of the first fight, so this fight felt kind of fresh to me, and it was a very enjoyable fight. Even though she wasn't hard. I wish she was a little bit harder, that I can say for sure. But The other boss is Smelter Demon. It is a legendary fight, uh, and this is the fight, where developers, I think, accidentally made him very cool because they made this hulking beast of a boss, which burns you when you are too close to him. To have a boss arena that is a very closed room, to get an opening to drink some Estus is a challenge in this fight, in a very good way. So yeah, this game can be a very precise. It is like a fight in a birdcage. It is kind of cool, even though we have a literal fight in a birdcage later in the game. This one still is the one that feels a lot better. And his return in the DLC was pretty bad, sadly. That frog with the face is a cool fight, even though I wish it were slightly more challenging in an entertaining way. What I mean is, it doesn't need much in terms of numbers, it just needs more in a variety of cool moves and actions. because I think sometimes it stands for too long as a hit pinata, you know. If you level yourself well, it is a no-brainer fight, and this time, just as I did it in the first time, I did it at first or second attempt. It was very easy. And of course, DLC bosses, most of which were very good. Slumbering Dragon was good. Fume Knight. Fume Knight is hardest fight in all of Dark Souls 2 for me, but holy shit, I did it. It felt good. Surlon was a decent fight, even though I think it could have been improved in a big manner. And Burnt Ivory King, even though the fight itself is kind of boring, the atmosphere surrounding the fight is very iconic. It is the best boss fight arena maybe in the series. And the last good thing that I wanted to mention is how the game runs. It was a very bad thing at the time because Dark Souls 1 Prepare to Die edition on PC was very bad, and you had to use community made fix called DS Fix to make the game run somewhat stable. And to do that, to make it crash less, not to, completely avoid crashing and bugs, but to make it appear less so, you had to make a lot of tweaks in the settings of DSFix, very precise for every kind of PC that you were using. Yeah, it was bad. And Dark Souls 2 was well done from the beginning in that regard. I'm happy to say that. It never crashes. It never crashed at me even once. Not nowadays in my new machine, not back in the day. It always runs stable. And the only kind of bugs that I usually experience is NPCs acting weird. But that is nothing new in the series, so that is okay. So now, as we have talked about the good things about the game, I'm dying inside because we have to go into the stink puddle. We're going to die. But still, you cannot ignore the bad things in this game. The first one is that some environments look lazy, especially in terms of level design. You can go through three locations in a row, in sequence, and in each one you would find the same squared room with poor flat texture of a stone on a wall. It is boring. Maybe the texture is different between them, but it always has a couple of doors, some generic mobs, and that's it. That's it. It is so boring. And Drangley Castle, it should be a major location in that regard, right? Wrong. It also has these kinds of rooms, and what makes it worse for me is that I can't unsee it that Drangley Castle looks like a cake. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm not the only one. But some locations make no sense, and I really dislike it. For me, it is a very bad thing. Like when you go from some a swamp top, you know, you end up in the swamp. There are some, hobos and some shit. There is some poisonous bog, whatever, and you go to this giant windmill. But it is made of shit. It is made of stone, dirt, and wood. And you find an elevator at the top of it that takes you far above from the windmill. And guess what you find? A whole fucking keep made almost entirely out of iron, and it is sinking into the lava. How did they put it there? You see, here is the swamp, here is the giant windmill, and somehow here on the cloud they have found a volcano or some shit. It is preposterous. And it is one of the favorite jokes from the community, and I really dislike it. It's tough for me to forget these kinds of inconsistencies. It is a blatant disrespect from the developers to both the player base and to themselves, to their colleagues, the people who decided that that should be the case. Um, that's not cool, dude. That's not cool. But that's not all. That's not all. The shit just goes deeper and deeper. In Dark Souls 1, they made a cool decision, a very cool decision to tell the narrative through the environment and item description and optional dialogues. You don't get any kind of cutscenes except the first one in the game that tells you the general story of the setting. Um, so you kind of on your own there, but if you keep an attentive mind, you can hear a lot of cool things about what is on your way. So you can get hyped. And what is more important, you understand what you're fighting against. But in Dark Souls 2, who the hell is Lost Sinner? Who the hell is Rotten? Who the hell is Duke's Dear Freya? And many other. I have no idea. I have no idea who they are. I really dislike that I have no idea who they are, because I know that there are some weak, frail moments of lore that sprinkled the same way as before, but in a much, much lesser extent. And the problem is that if it were some small bosses, it wouldn't be an issue. But these are the main bosses. They are presented when you go and meet them like a very important characters, both in the lore and in terms of mechanics. But sometimes they are lacking both. And yeah, I like when a game tells a good story, and Dark Souls 2 sometimes does that despite bosses, not because of them. And that's a shame. That's a shame. And bosses are usually an emotional height of the game. And in this game, it's not necessarily so. Speaking of which, some bosses are genuinely awful. Ancient Dragon, Smelter Demon from DLC, his other incarnation, Covetous Demon, Skeleton Lords, and many, many, many more. They are bad, and most of the problem lies with them being either boring or poorly balanced, or both. It can happen as well. Most of these bosses are bad and easy though, so at least you wouldn't spend much time on them, detesting them all the while. But still, some of them are, and I hate them. HP system. That's a big one. And for me, it is not as big as for many other people in the community, actually. But I can see why people are pissed about that issue. That's the big one. Someone from From Software decided that this game, the last game's healing was not good enough. You need another system, but Then he went to sleep and forgot, and he decided that he needs yet another system. And his assistant from the Tuesday and assistant from Wednesday both handed him pitches for a new system. And since they're lying on the same kind of desk, he thinks that this is whole idea is, it's complete. Uh, what I'm trying to say is Dark Souls 2 has healing systems from both Demon Souls and Dark Souls 1. And it's not a great mix, actually. There are a lot of vocal members of Dark Souls community that think that life gems make the game very easy, and I think they are right. But for me personally, I didn't use them much, so it didn't hit me as hard. Um, but the developers, they are not stupid. All right, they make the game, they make the game, they know what they're making, all right, they know their vision. So they know that if we have two healing systems at the same time, the character just has at least double the healing, potentially even more. So they have decided to counteract with some counteract the benefits with some stinkers into the mix, so it wouldn't be as good, so it would be kind of balanced. And they have nerfed Estus Flask. Estus Flask, first, it starts slow in terms of charges. You don't get many charges, and now it heals over time, not in a span of half a second. And it's it is a very stupid attempt to balance it, because SS Flask gets strong very fast. It gets at least competent very fast, and then it gets obscenely broken at the light speed level slightly later. Early into the mid game, you have all the Estus you could want. Basically, I didn't even touch life gems. Well, I did later into the game a couple of times, but only for a little bit. Just because Estus Flask was that strong. So yeah, that didn't work out, right? So they tried to balance it with another stinker, and they made that your HP bar goes slower each time you die. Not slower, shorter. So each time you die, you get more zombified, and your total HP number goes, shorter and shorter and shorter. So it didn't do much in the end, because you can restore your humanity, and your HP bar is full once more. So yeah, these kind of two things, they were put they were put in spirit to balance this whole structure, but in the end they did nothing to counteract the busted healing in this game. So if you play this game without DLCs, it can get very easy compared to Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3, especially if you think about it. So yeah, another thing is bonfire placement. Bonfire placement in this game is sometimes bad. Sometimes it's pointless. You can, go into the new location, explore it a little bit, and you can find just, down the road yet another bonfire that is better than your first one in every way. Or you can find some shit one that you would never use. That's a usual thing that happens in this game. And since now you can traverse between bonfires, teleport between them from the start, it basically made the traveling in this world pointless. You either explore a new area, or you go straight for the boss, or straight for the vendor, or straight, for kind of, thing. You never travel in this game. You always explore. And many fans of Dark Souls 1 really dislike that at the release, but that is not a huge issue for me personally. But I understand the resentment, and I can kind of agree with it. Another thing is the adaptability stat. It was just a mistake overall. It is useful because it adds to your agility number. It kind of has, it rises your resistances, kind of. But in the end, it's a joke. It's a joke stat, and it should have never been implemented into the game. The purpose of the stat should have been sprinkled all around other stats, and the game wouldn't lost anything, it would only gain. So that's it. The mob placement is the last thing that I wanted to cover. Um, I know that they have fixed it. I've heard conflicting rumors about it. The mob placement in Scholar of the First Sin edition, but still there are some stinkers there. There is a location called Shrine of Amala, if you want to be specific. And there are these mage ladies, there are these chicks that fire magic arrows at you. But the thing is that they don't need, to get into the radius of a spell to cast it upon you, like you do if you want to, get them. No, they can cast it throughout the whole area. So when you can only shoot them at the distance of, I don't know, 50 meters, they can go for a whole kilometer and they will get you if you are not careful. And that is very stupid. I really dislike this area of the game. So yeah, that can happen. That's a bad level design at its finest, as you can see. But in terms of bad things, that's pretty much all I have. Um, my thoughts about the game overall. As I mentioned before, this game should have never been called um, Dark Souls 2, and if it wouldn't be, it would have been much, much better experience, and fans would have loved it much, much more. Now that I think about it, this is the game that is a perfect for a remake treatment, because people tend to, the game industry remasters a lot of old games, and when they try to remake them, people are always angry. This time, I think, knowing how experienced From Software are, I think they could remake this game from the ground up to keep the core cool ideas, everything that is working in this game intact, but fix all the shit. It is completely possible. These people can do it if you give them time, and it is not much in terms of time. I mean, they have remade Demon Souls, even though it was a very faithful to the original, as I can see. But here they can remake a lot more. They can just throw some systems like attunement into the garbage, and fix the healing and everything else, and tune bosses properly. Remake the layout in locations, mm, add some new lore, and the game would feel complete, I think. There are a lot of undercooked ideas, and if they would be cooked properly, with the quality of From Software, I think this would be the best game in a series. Imagine that. Imagine that. After all these years, the Dark Souls comes back, but it doesn't come back in a way that people expect. Like, people would be mad if you tell them that out of all of the games, the one that's getting remade is the Dark Souls 2. But if you tell them that it is going to be remade, not to be remastered, they will start listening. That's why I think, at least. So Dark Souls 2, on its own, at its release, what it was, year 2014, 2015, I don't remember. It ended up being a fun action RPG that was undercooked. It provided many, many hours of entertainment regardless of that. And there are many of the games in this genre that actually share the same description, but they are viewed much more favorably by the community, such as, namely, Mass Effect, Skyrim, Fallout New Vegas. All of these games were not completely, they were not completed at the time of the release, but they are still loved by the community. So yeah, um, that's what I think about the game. Dark Souls 2 is not. It is the game that is not loved even by the developers themselves. From what I understand, the whole development process was a disaster, and the game ended up being a Frankenstein monster of some cool ideas from earlier, some assets from earlier in the development, with the cream of good DLC put on top of it. And if you don't like Dark Souls 2, I can't make you like it, of course. But if you play the game and you enjoy it, I think you shouldn't feel guilty. There are a lot of things, honest things, in this game that are good. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me in this ramble. I know that I have been absent for a while, but life gets in the way. Maybe I will make more videos in the future, and we'll see. Uh, I'm always happy to discuss my thoughts on gaming here and anywhere else. So, if you agree or disagree with me, something, just write up the comment or something. I don't know. I don't care. But I will be happy to argue. But until then, see ya.